we do have a definite purpose why we're here today, and I'm glad that you folks took an opportunity to come and hear what we have to say, because this is a really important message. There is a lot of confusion out there in regards to how the law is supposed to operate, what's constitutional, what's not constitutional. And but what we see as people out in society, we see all of these symptoms, or what we consider to be issues. You know, for example, you know, Obama's stimulus package. Okay, now, or the health care bill, or the war in Iraq, or abortion, or, you know, these mortgage foreclosures. You know, whatever the issue is, they're issues, okay? And they're all stemming from the same source or problem, fundamental problem. And people all around the country, and I'm really proud of a lot of people around the country who have finally decided, you know, who have never paid any attention to any of this stuff before, are finally getting out of their chairs. They're going out and talking with other people and going to meetings and so forth to discuss these situations and try to discover what the source of the problem is and how to fix it. The problem is that we as Americans are so out of touch with how our system of law and system of government works that we haven't got a clue how to fix it. Okay, and that's just the reality of the situation. Now, is it all your fault? No, not really, because for all your lives, you've been educated and deceived and lied to and so forth as to how the system's supposed to work. Plus, what? We've been busy doing other things, you know, making a living, taking care of our families and that sort of thing. And we've entrusted our trust to our politicians and stuff to do their job correctly, okay? Unfortunately, they're running the country into the dirt. And we're at one of those critical stages right now where in the history of our union, it's time for the people to stand up and take charge. I mean, does that sound like what we need to do? Okay, so how do we do that? Well, we're going to do that through restoring the state sovereignty issue. Why is that important? Well, before I discuss the solution, what I want to do is talk a little bit about the background, how we got here, okay, and why state sovereignty is important. I know some of you are probably a little bit educated in that already, but there's some that may not be. And see, what it comes down to fundamentally is what's more important. Is truth more important or tradition? Which one? Truth or tradition? Truth. Are you sure? Yeah. You're absolutely sure that truth is more important than tradition? Okay. All right, well, I'm going to hold you to that. But let's back up a little bit. See, Jim started to hit on it. Back when the colonies were still here, they were under English rule. And like we said, you know, that all their lives they'd been under subjugation of the king. They'd never been free. But what happened finally when they had had enough and they rebelled and they fought and they separated themselves politically from England, what became the status of those people after the conclusion of the Revolutionary War? Well, what happened is they, for the first time in their lives, became free, right? And what does it mean? You know, well, they became sovereigns unto themselves. And for the first time in their lives, they had the capacity to choose, you know, freedom of choice, and their right of self-determination, and the right to establish their own form of government. And that's what they did. The 13 colonies established themselves as 13 independent sovereign nation states. Now, did you hear what I said? Independent sovereign nation states. Okay? Now, that's important to understand because At the conclusion of the Revolutionary War, there was no United States. All there was 13 states, okay, nation states who had all the sovereign power to declare war and execute trade and commerce and all those kinds of things. But they felt kind of vulnerable because they were spread out and they wanted a way to protect themselves from invasion, carry on commerce, and maintain certain international relationships that they had established and stuff. So what did they do? They formed a committee, right? And they formed this committee, well, rather than calling it a committee, let's say they entered into an association or a compact or a treaty with one another. They formed a corporation. And as a result, oh, by the way, they called that corporation what? The United States of America, okay? Under the Articles of Confederation, Article 1. Now understand, these Articles of this United States of America was not a country, okay? It was you might call it a central government, but essentially it was a committee or an establishment of people that the states put together to handle certain matters. Now understand, all the sovereign power was in the people. The people had all the power. But what they did is they said, okay, in establishing our societies, we're going to relinquish a little bit of that power to the state government. Okay? And then in turn, the state said, well, we don't want to deal individually with all these international and interstate matters, so we're going to redelegate some of these powers that the people gave us to a federal government. Okay? So the people created the states created the federal government. The purpose of the federal government was to handle primarily international and interstate matters. Okay. Are we together on this so far? Okay? So